Oh, today's day 48, 448, not 47. Or 48. There we go. Can I change it on here too? I should be able to. Let me see. Yeah. Hi everybody. Sorry. Typed in the wrong number. But yes. We'll get started here in just a minute. Anyways, hi everybody. Welcome to the stream. Today we are going to do more optimizing because we've been doing pretty much only optimizations for the past few weeks. Well, past few days, I guess, but here we are again, doing some more. And today, we're gonna try and do another optimization on top of the stage loading stuff, which we're almost done, by the way. We just ran into more snags, which means more things to fix, so naturally we have to finish that up. And then we're gonna be looking at inventory optimizations because we found out that loading items is a bit slow, so it'd be nice to examine inventory loading and see if we can fix that too. Yeah. And I'm super excited. Super duper excited. There's gonna be a lot to do today. So hopefully we make some progress on those things. So let's get started, shall we? First thing I'm gonna do is we need to find out where we're at. Last time we tried to do make it so it would detect when there was a new stage, and it would do the pre-caching for any stages that was not in the asset pack. This is very good because it allows us to automatically retrieve new map caches or generate them without us having to like say, hey, generate all the map caches every single time. It just makes things really easy. So I really liked that. Also, I'm gonna switch the audio source real quick. Here we go. That way I can at least hear it, because it wasn't connected to the right device. Okay. So I'm trying to think, where do we want to start? Let's start with... I think what we ended up finding was we ended up in that one weird, like, loading state where it didn't really load a map, it just loaded a 0x0 tile map. So, and that tells us that we didn't properly go back to the title screen after we were done. So, I need to figure out why that is, because this should have triggered. So, I'm gonna go back to debug mode. Debug build, excuse me, and let's go to... Let's first delete the game pack, because the game pack contains all of our, like, cached files. So we're going to delete the cache, and I want it to run from the beginning until it gets to this part, where it's supposed to say, okay, game map cache is running, is finished, and see where we're at after that. And what we should find is that we change state back to main menu, and we get like the title screen stuff happening. But I think the issue was, let's see. The issue was, even though we loaded back to the main menu, I think we were stuck with a loading stage. We were loading a different stage, so we didn't change the stage when we do on-level load, even though on-level load, I think, is supposed to trigger the stage loading itself. Like, if we go to main menu on-level load, we can see, oh, this is on state change. You can see the starting map gets called, and that's what we want. So it's supposed to load level when that happens. I guess... Like, this should have been true when the statement started, and then it gets set to false, so it was true before. So this should not have ran. It would have ran change state main menu, which would have called the on state change function, which then calls on level load after the fact. So something here is not quite working, and we just need to figure out what it is. So right now we're building the debug build in the background. Happy Monday, everyone. It's the start of another new week. And another exciting week of game dev, hopefully. Alright, so game is built, so let's go ahead and run it. And let's see what happens. So essentially, when we get to... the game should detect that we don't have a new, like... we don't have a new map cache stuff, so then we're gonna probably see in the terminal here that it's going to pop up with, generating all the map caches for us. So hopefully that is the case. So it should happen right here, hopefully. Okay, so yeah, it's like, okay, generating the map cache for everything because it can find any of these maps in the map cache. So it should be doing that now, and we'll be going through all the maps, of course. And it's gonna be slower in debug, but we want to see what the state of our game is afterwards so we can develop a fix for it. After this, we have to implement a version of this where when it detects a file write time that is greater than the last time we created the caches for these maps, we regenerate it. So I'm thinking of how I want to structure that right now. I think what we're going to do is we're going to write a save file that says, okay, when were these file caches generated? And then from that, we compare them, like we load them in and we compare them and say, okay, are they now at a more present time? We found this last time, standard file system last write time, and we can actually use this in order to detect if we have to regenerate a cache for a map file based on doing what I said earlier and storing the dates of the files when they are first generated. So that would be nice. And so, yeah, we're just waiting for this. Map loading takes a while, so that's why we made this system in the first place. Because even in debug mode, I would like the loading aspect to be fast. I think that's our biggest pain point when trying to test stuff, is that we have too much load time, not enough playtime. So we can't really test things easily unless we go ahead and cache all these beforehand. So that was the whole idea that started all of this in the first place. So hopefully, once this all gets done, we're gonna be able to have the game in a state that we can understand. Because so far, we've realized we're in a weird state, and maybe I should add more breakpoints here. It's important that we catch exactly when this occurs. And right now, the map cache should be running. Like, if I were to breakpoint here, upon the next map save finishing, or excuse me, upon the last one finishing, we should arrive here. Because the last map will make this function return false. So, hopefully that is... we still gotta do a lot of maps, so unfortunately in debug this does take a lot longer. And hopefully we only have to do this once. What I could have done to speed up this process was not delete every cache file, only like one, so it would regenerate only that one. So that's something I should try in the future if I'm gonna keep testing this. But yeah. Hope everyone is having a good Monday so far. HTRN, thank you for the follow. Just waiting along for now. Campaign 2. So, still have to do chapter 3 stuff after. I didn't realize how long this would take. But we can talk about the inventory loading stuff as well. So, when we were loading the first save file in my game over and over, when we were testing the Pirate Ghost Captain boss, we created a bug where it dropped like a bunch of rings and then it just kept adding to my inventory. And for one, this was in release build, so you don't expect release build to slow down, but in this game, when collecting the items, it was slowing down the game a lot. So then that was like the first sign that something was strange. It's like, okay, does adding an item to an inventory, does that sound like it should take very long? Like, computation-wise, right? But knowing how I built the game, when you collect an item, a lot goes on behind the scenes. It gets checked for like what its type is. Depending on what its type is, it gets inserted into a specific inventory. Items could stack or not stack. They could be equips, they could be accessories. There's all sorts of things that have to happen. Even merchant inventories, believe it or not, get updated based on what items you've collected, because there are sell inventories, so the sell windows have to get updated when you collect items. All this is to say that there's a lot going on, but I'm not sure we necessarily need it to be that slow, or if we can optimize things for our item adding code. Sorry, I'm new here. Which engine are you building atop? This is using the OLC Pixel Game Engine. It is a kind of like a library. You can think of it akin to like Raylib. Raylib is for C. Pixel Game Engine would be the Raylib equivalent in C++. You are given a bunch of ways to draw onto the screen. You get your basic mouse and keyboard input, and you kind of just do whatever you want with it from there. There's no real engine under the hood. You kind of have to build that yourself. So it offers that kind of flexibility. That's both good and bad, depending on how you look at it. There are positives and negatives to both, of course. So this should be the last map. At least if the map continues to be in the same order as it always is. And then we see here, this is done. So game map cache was running is false. So that's interesting because this should be true right now. False means it's going to run this, which is what we saw, which is why we end up in that room that has no map in it. So we have to figure out why this returns false right here. Yeah, that's really strange. I was not expecting that, honestly. But let's see. Maybe I'm looking for this instead. No, that's not true, because this empties out first. Okay, let me back up here. So map cache is running. Let's find out where that returns, or that becomes true first. We wrote this code pretty recently. So there's our right. Well, that's the header. Here's where we set it to true. Okay, that's in /generate cache. Did we set this to true when we start generating these in the first place? Maybe that's why we forgot to write this line for that. So recently we made it so when we start the game, I think it's under onUser create. After everything else has loaded, then we look for the pre-caching stuff. So let me just try to find that real quick. I think it's supposed to be right above here. Maybe under validate game status. No, not quite. Okay, let's back up. It should be somewhere around here. I hope. Like, I wrote this very recently, so maybe let's look at the changes we made to this file. It should be in here, or even the header would help too. The header would tell us as well. Wait, what is this? What happened? Oh, I moved those all down. Okay, well that's not what we're looking for. I was expecting like a function that we added, but I'm not seeing one. Oh, there it is, pre-cache new levels. So this function we added recently, and we can see here, that's when it calls add to map cache queue. So maybe the way we've done this, maybe it's time to make it that so map cache is running becomes true here instead. I think that makes more sense, but let me clarify that's not going to break anything first. So we go back to, let's go back to that /generate command. So in theory, if we start adding to the map cache queue, this gets set to true. I think this variable is tied to this function, so I think we can agree that we just want to set to true when we call this function. Mscripted, is the game playable on browser? Yes, it is actually. The demo is currently released on itch and Steam, so you literally can just hop on your browser and play it. The game even has some specific features for Emscripten because, as you know, with the browser, you don't necessarily have like a persistent data storage. It doesn't have access to your hard drive. So it actually runs a slightly different version of the game that connects to a server to save files from. So that's another system. It's not quite like fleshed out. It could use some work, but it is there as well. So it's kind of cool that this engine can provide that capability as well to just export to WebGL, because that just means you can provide the game to a wider audience. That's very nice. A lot of people just want to hop into the browser, see how it runs, right? Obviously, it's a little less performant in a browser than a native build, but it's still pretty nice. So tying this to here, this variable is not part of this class. I almost want to switch it over to being in here, but at the same time, it wouldn't be hard to just tie it to game. We already include it. I might just have to expose it publicly in order to do this, because it's inaccessible, or I provide this class as a friend class, which isn't terrible either. Maybe, maybe not. Or maybe it already is a friend class. I don't know. IntelliSense is not complaining, so maybe we're okay. But yes, I will modify that variable here. Yeah, it is pretty awesome. So I think just changing this variable will fix our problems, because if I'm not mistaken, if I run it right now, we'll be in that dead level. Or if I continue with our game, yeah, we're in this dead level here, and that's because we don't trigger that when that variable's false. So I believe now if I restart the game, we'll be fine. And I'm gonna go back to release mode, because I don't want to wait that long again. I think we basically found the root of our problem, because I was expecting that to be true, and then maybe something else weird behind the scenes was causing it, but that would have literally been the cause. So that's good. Also, it looks like IntelliSense popped back up. We need to make this accessible. I really don't want to make it public, so let's just make tile group data file a friend class. I think that is perfectly okay for this. We're not really messing with anything critical with the game in there, so I don't mind doing this. Had to be careful not to expose too many things as friend classes, because then you're just destroying the whole point of encapsulation. But I think for this it's okay. So now we're just waiting for it to build. And then after this we can do a big commit, and then I would say the map preloader is done. Oh no, we still have to do the other part, but we're almost done. But yeah, the whole test was to make a 1-6 copy and test adding a file to the previous list of files. So I wanted to try that again afterward, right here. We just added a fake file, or a fake map, for the sake of testing. So we'll try that again afterwards to make sure this still functions. If we say, go work on the game or a map, come back to it, we have generated a new map file. Essentially, this process needs to be automatic to where I'm no longer thinking about it, I'm just doing other game dev stuff. That would be nice. So far though, we're about done building, and then we can try this out. So this time in release build, this process should go a lot faster, so... And then we hopefully will end up on the title screen and not that weird map again. As you can see, we just plowed through the levels this time, compared to last time. It still takes a minute for the bigger maps, of course, but that's the whole reason we're doing this in the first place. Because you can imagine a less powerful computer, these wait times would have been like 5 to 6 seconds easily, and that's not fun. So you can see we're on the title screen now, so we successfully made it so we can like preload the game without getting stuck. So that's good. And here I can demonstrate the item thing. This character has like 300 something items in it because of a bug. And so every time I try to load it, you can see we clearly are stuck right now as the game is populating the inventory lists with these items. And that is not a negligible amount of time. You can see it's only like 300 items, by the way. This isn't like millions of items. This is only adding like 300 items into the player's inventory. And that took, what, at least 15 seconds? That's like That's kind of a deal breaker, and same if we save and quit. Hi Moros, welcome to the stream. So yeah, if I quit, you can see we're hanging here for quite a while because it's doing the opposite process. Unloading items also takes time. So this is not good, for sure. I don't expect a player to have that many items by the end of the game, but I definitely don't want the item process to... Like, imagine if the player has 100 items. I think that's pretty reasonable, and that would still be like a third of the time, which I wouldn't be happy about. That is an eternity. Yeah, it's like, that is unacceptable in my eyes. So that's something we have to look at today as well, on top of this map pre-caching stuff we've been doing. So the map pre-caching is almost done. The last bit of it is... Well, first let's do another test. So I made a copy of another map and called it Campaign 7.1. Let's just pretend we just added a map to the game and we started this up. So instead of the game immediately going to the title screen now, it's going to pre-cache that map and add it. That way, when we actually load the level for real, so this is the pre-caching process, then it did another load, so it did load title screen, realize there's new maps, load that, then load title screen again. So that's all that happened, and we're good to go. It's basically pre-cached. So what I want to test next is, let's say we modify a map. I want it to be able to detect that, and then re-pre-cache the map. I'm curious, what kind of FPS does your game get? If I'm just, like, in normal gameplay, let's say a normal, like, gameplay experience where you have, like, some monsters running around, you're fighting and walking around the map, I would say probably around 200 on release mode. And let's say I was using my older laptop, probably like 45 to 50 FPS for the same scene. 4,000... If my game hit over 1,000 for everything it has to do, I would go insane. Because the loops are already so packed with so much to do that I wouldn't expect an FPS that high. 4,000 would be like, what? 0.2 milliseconds per frame? A little more than that, but 0.25 I think. That's really fast. Like, I think my update and draw takes probably 6 or 7 right now. So that is insane. Yeah, because the game is highly complex, yeah, and not necessarily optimized, so I feel like 200 is very reasonable for a game like mine at the current state it's in. Okay. But yeah, 4,000 is batshit crazy. If my game got that right now, I would be very happy. I would be like, I have so much budget. I wouldn't have to optimize away literally everything just to keep my game at the pace I want it to be at. Okay. So, yeah, it's a never-ending battle for optimization, right? So, we need to go to the place where we call that cache function. Okay, where do we call this? Because it's not here, clearly. Okay, it's called in state main menu. I guess that makes sense. Will you be doing post-completion analysis of performance? Oh yes. I mean, we've been doing hot paths for the last 2 days, so... Definitely for sure. If I can run my game through a couple passes of the profiler and find something that I'm like, oh, if I just swap this data structure, or if I just fix this loop a little bit, I get much more performance, I'm all for that. If I can save like 5 or 10% more CPU cycles or something, that'd be great. I'd definitely do that. You made a simple demo that only showcases mouse features, and when you disable VSync it gets over 4,000 FPS on macOS? And it's causing some race... Oh, okay. Well, if I just run, like, no VSync on a blank PG instance, my computer actually freaks out, so I usually have to keep it on. Or I have to put a reasonably, like, at least some computation in the loop, otherwise my computer just freaks out and locks up. I think that's pretty normal because it's trying to generate or tell the GPU to generate like over 10,000 frames a second. And like, it just hogs up my entire computer. Yeah, it is. Like, it's too fast. I have to add something or everything just locks up. Okay. So, right now, the only logic in here is we see if the file does not exist already in the game pack. So the next thing to do is we need to first make a list of what the file write times are if they don't exist. So if the file didn't exist in the resource pack, of course we're going to generate it at this time, and that would be an ideal time to store the date modified time, because obviously we're modifying at this time. So I have a feeling in here we're going to start a brand new data file to write to. This is called our cache timestamps file. I'll call it data because this is not necessarily the file. And then we will open it. Data file.read. It's a static function. And we could hardcode the directory. I at least want to make it so I can modify it in the future if necessary. So let's go to our config real quick. Our base config. At least putting it in here does myself a favor if I ever want to change the name. So we'll call this the precache map precache loading map precache date timestamp config. I think that's a fair name. And then map precache timestamp config. And I'll just call this precache timestamps.txt. I think that's fine. C++ is one of those languages where you can spend a lifetime optimizing from how much C++ lets you do. Right? Yeah. Still have so much to learn in regards to that as well, but it's a lot of fun to try to optimize. And it might not even necessarily be optimizing an algorithm. Sometimes it's just like, well, my data structure just sucks. the way the data is laid out just sucks, right? Okay, so back over here, we're gonna read in. We need to provide the data file as an input and a file name. So it's going to be whatever this is, parsed from the configuration file as a string. Everything else can be its defaults. And then this will be populated with that data, which is initially going to be blank. So then we're going to say, okay, if the key we're looking for doesn't exist in this file, or the key does exist and we read a timestamp that's not equal to the current timestamp we have in the file, then we're going to add the map to the cache queue. So two scenarios here. Maybe this if statement's about to change. So let's add a new boolean called map file out of date, or map cache out of date. And we'll just set that equal to reading in. So either it's not going to exist, so cache timestamp data dot has so either not has property, and the property name will be the map name. We're just going to use the map names for simplicity. Every map name has to be unique. And the other condition would be, so or, if that we do have the property, then we're going to read the property. So it's going to be it'll be a string timestamp. I'm not sure if Chrono will have a way to read that in yet. Let's take a look though. Because the way this is done is this outputs a, well, it's a time. File time type. It uses Chrono time point. So we need to know if there is a way to parse that from a, like, string. Or do we even have to parse into, let's see. We can just get the time point of the file ourselves and compare that string, because the output strings should be the same. So get string, of that map name has to be equal to the file name itself. So the file has to exist for this to be checked. So we'll have to say standard, or well, it's from the game pack. So we have to see if the precache file exists. I guess that's where this comes in. Precache file exists, and I believe and short circuits. I could be wrong. Where's precedence? And does short circuit before or does. So that means this will happen first. So if precache file exists and the timestamps match, so we're gonna have to say standard. Well, no. Anything stored in the resource pack is not gonna have a matching. Oh, that's interesting. So we're not seeing if it exists in the resource pack, or are we? If it doesn't if it exists in the resource pack, that doesn't necessarily mean it exists on our system, because we also store a local version of the cache here. So this is where we get the file write information date from. So it would be this, but we use standard file system exists. Standard file system exists this particular file. And we're gonna see if that file, so we'll do standard file system last write time of that file. I guess I'm going to shrink this down because I'm putting this everywhere. So const standard string map file name, and we could even pass that into this function here so we don't have to redo it. This is only going to exist for this lifetime, so it's okay to use it here. I found out the hard way recently, if we capture a variable by reference and its lifetime expires before the lifetime of this lambda, then we're just going to get garbage data, which obviously makes sense if you pass it by reference, but we ran into that issue lately and it really bit me in the butt. So anyway, we can now say, or use map file name here to shorten it down a little bit. Use it here again. And we should be able to compare the string from in here to that write time. Although this is a string, so we're gonna have to convert this to a string, I believe. I assume if we just convert it directly to a string, that would work. That's interesting, right? How does format do this? Because we used standard format to print out that little string there. So does chrono time point have like a toString function of some sort? Otherwise, I would have to do like a standard format on it and then compare that string. I don't really see one. Maybe the format is just built in. So maybe I just have to do it that way. Standard format. Because I could do it the other way. I could convert that to like a time since epoch and store it as an integer. I think I like that better, rather than trying to do more string conversions. So it looks like we can do... Oh, what is going on? So, time since epoch, it might not be an integer. It looks like it's a system clock duration. Whatever that's supposed to be. Let's look at duration. A duration has operator equals. Operator equal to compares two durations. Checks if left-hand side and right-hand side are equal. The number of ticks for the type common to both durations are equal. So I guess the assumption is these two should be equal. But now I have to make a duration out of my integer. Which... Can I? So a duration would be what? Constructs a duration with r ticks. So... Interesting. I don't know what I'm getting myself into right now. I don't know if I like this at all. I'm just looking at the example here to try and see if I can understand. It looks like we would have to duration cast it to a certain time, what do you call it? Time measurement? Because a duration is a count of ticks of type rep and a tick period, where the tick period is a compile time rational fraction representing the time in seconds from one tick to the next. I would assume that the duration on this thing would be something sane. Like, probably like 1 second or something. Because I notice when we standard format it, it produces it in Zulu time, and it has... No, it does have, like, the fractional component as well. I might be better off for simplicity just converting it to a string. Because I don't know if I want to deal with all the Chronos stuff. It looks like... I thought it was going to be easier to do it this way, like get time since epoch. But maybe not. It's a little more complicated than that. So let's go the other way and just convert it to a string, or in my case, standard format it with this value. And compare that to a string we read and write to from the file itself. I think that would be nice. Okay, so that determines if the map cache is out of date. So let's see if this all works out. If the file did not exist, this would be false, right? Because we would say we probably wouldn't have the property, or if we did, the file would not exist, so this statement would still return false. If the file existed, and it was written to at a later time than what existed in the file, this would return false. Then this would say, okay, the file exists on our file system, because we've cached it before. But this also means, so this is a weird part. If I don't include my cache files in the, like, let's say we're building them script and build, if I don't include this in the virtual added files, then it's going to say these files don't exist every time. So this becomes a critical folder, assuming we're relying on it. Which means, this is just like a build thing I have, but I have some scripts for distributing the game, and I would have to modify them to include this folder in the assets list. So I would have to do a copy of the cache into the assets folder, both for my shell script and my PowerShell script, depending on if we're in Windows or Linux. I think that's the only thing we have to add. I usually just use... Oh, let me read back up. I don't believe standard chrono time point has a toString function. ToTimeT to get a standard time t, which then is, yeah. That's fair. Standard format would be best. I usually just use 2 time points and do the math. Doesn't have a toString. You would need some kind of persistent storage, probably leverage mscript's IndexedDB, which stores local stuff. That is true. God, I hate messing with that though. I hope, at least as a consideration for the mscript in PGE3, there might be an easier way to get into some of those other storage format alternatives down the line. Maybe it won't be like a PGE3 base feature, but I really think some kind of like extension or mod for it can be built off of that. Yes! I really would like that, because it's a pain to just try to either modify the engine or build it myself every time. I've done it for like 3 games now, and I just get annoyed every time I try and do it. Yes, that would be nice. And heck, maybe I'll peek into the PG3 codebase and maybe mess with it myself. Who knows? We'll see. Just ideas. We're in the ideas phase right now. Ooh, yeah. If you do have a go at it, I would love to have that in the future. Okay, so Yes, if we're using the file system, I have to make sure those files get added properly for Emscripten. And now they are, so that's good. Just thinking, am I missing anything else? So do I even need this? Well, I still need to know, so this is gonna be an or. The map cache can be out of date, or the pre-cache could just not exist. Maybe in reverse. I feel like this one will be more common. So pre-cache file exists, or map cache is out of date. Do this. And this is a function. That needs the map name. Although we're passing the map file name in here, I don't need map name anymore. So I can get rid of this. Wait, what was the point of... Wait, why are there two of the same thing? Game pack file exists and... Game pack file exists. What? What is... I'm confused. Was this something else before? I am so confused. Why are there two of the same statement? I'm gonna undo real quick. Did I just write the same thing twice? Why? What was I thinking? Okay, anyway, get rid of that one. Okay. So, I might just reduce this to a boolean now because it doesn't really need any, it has no reason to be a lambda anymore. Okay. Just silly things. So in either case, we have to add to the map cache queue. And yeah, now we just have to test it. I'm still waiting on Javid to figure out what he wants to do for whatever replaces resource pack, because he might come up with something there. And that makes sense to abstract. Ooh, yes. Very much so. I really like how resource packs work. It just makes it easy to distribute things, and anything else that can be tied directly to it just makes everything more cohesive. The more things that use it, the more reason there is to use it, which means it'll probably have better support. Because it almost felt like an afterthought for PGE 2. Like, it'd be like, oh, and also this exists, so maybe we'll try to add it now, that kind of thing. But that reminds me of some other PGE 2 features that were like just kind of thrown in. I have a feeling somewhere like, oh, Javid needs this feature, so now it's in here. That's what it feels like sometimes. Okay. So I think this is it. I feel I'm at that point where I'm like, I feel like there's supposed to be more to this, but there actually isn't more to this. Oh, we have to do the writing though. So if we add to the map cache queue, technically we're writing to it now. So let's also record it into the file at this point. So cache timestamp data set string, and we're going to use this. Where's the key? The map file name? No, we're using map for this, not map file name. And we'll set it to be whatever the timestamp is from doing standard format here. So I'm just gonna grab that real quick. Const standard string current timestamp for whatever file name this is. I guess it's more like last write timestamp. Okay. And then we set the string to last write timestamp as a string. Yeah. And then data file write when we're all done. And with that, I think we're good to go. So write takes in the same parameters, right? The data file itself and a variable or a file name. Basically the story of PG from its start. Oh yeah, I'm sure. Javid made PG because software rendering 3D maps in CG was not viable. Later he went to do more with the GPU, and decals were born, then decals were a pain, so the renderable was born. It's nice to see. It really is. Glad to see the evolution of it over time. Glad to be a part of it as well. Like, the fact that PGE came around into existence around the time when I was really interested in it is a godsend, because at that time I wasn't really moving on to other programming languages seriously for game development. So PGE kind of kickstarted it because it was just enough to let me be creative and explore the language at the same time. It's not very hands-off to where the engine does most of the work, and it's also simple enough that you're not scrambling to try link libraries together and find tutorials that are like 2 or 3 years old, 10 years old, that don't even work anymore. JavaScript would have been a good candidate too. I could have seen myself doing that if I mean, the first game jam I participated in for OLC, I did do it in JavaScript. I didn't feel very good about it, but I did do it. It was literally canvas rendering by hand, so it was pretty painful. So why is this a problem? I feel like IntelliSense keeps popping up something silly, and I don't understand. I'm just gonna build it and see what it says. We have... Cannot convert argument 1 from basic string to const size t. Oh, where'd this go? It's just gone. Oh, because I put it up here and didn't copy it back in. There we go. I'll probably be happier. Alright, let's see what's next. I used to program C and C++, and when Windows came into existence and everything required you to write all that boilerplate to handle being a Windows app, and I just lost all my interest. Very fair. Very fair. I felt like I understood none of it either. Okay, it looks like I have another one. Same problem. What is it trying to do? It's saying it cannot convert a string to a size t. But why are we doing that in the first place? Get string? Oh. We have to do the map key itself. Okay, that's what I'm missing. Yeah, I did that wrong. So that fixes that. Because putting it inside here is which array element we want, and that's definitely not what we're looking for. And then set string cannot convert argument 2 from string to size t. Oh, we probably have the same exact issue, don't we? It's a set string of the key map to... No, that sounds right. Map name is a string. Last write timestamp is a string. So it should be const string... Oh. No, yeah, I did the same exact thing. It's just one parameter index into that key. Yeah. Just had the wrong use syntax for it. The other way would be cache timestamps data.getProperty map.setString. That's just how it's built. I was just mentioning WinAPI's GUI aspect the other day. Yeah, window procs off event based interface isn't for me. It's not complicated. It's just not intuitive to downright ugly. Right. Okay, so I don't think anything's gonna happen pre-cache wise right now. Or it just says cannot open file because it doesn't exist. Okay, let's say if it doesn't exist, then we know for sure we're gonna be pre-caching everything because there's no pre-cache file. So I assume that just pops up here when it tries to call this. So let me see. Cannot open, yeah. If file stream fail, cannot open file. So yeah, we'll do it this way. If standard file system exists, that file, then we'll read it in. Otherwise, there's no reason not to. We'll just have a blank data structure, so everything should be required to be pre-cached at this point. Okay, so we'll try that again. So since there's no pre-cache file, there's no modified dates to compare to, every single map should have to be preloaded, even though they've already been preloaded in the game pack prior. Or we just break. Key intro map does not exist in data file. Oh, you know what? We have to check for the key existing too, otherwise it errors out. So not only does the file have to exist, we have to say and cache timestamps data has property map and cache timestamps data get string is equal to last write timestamp. I'm gonna simplify this a little bit just because it's a bit long with let's see, cache let's see, what's the logic here? It's to see if the cache timestamp matches. Cache timestamp matches last write time. So this would be, well, this is supposed to be false. So if the file exists and the property exists and the string does not equal to last write timestamp, so we had the opposite logic there. So this would be cache timestamp differs from last write time. Something like that. Okay, let's try that. I missed the days of... Oh. Also the time factor. Nowadays there's docs and help files readily available. Back when Windows started dominating, I had no resources. I wasn't rich and could afford to buy a bunch of Windows programming books. You had a copy of Borland C++ for Windows that you got from school, but it wasn't documented well enough to do anything real useful. You missed the days of QBasic where literally everything you can do is documented in the help file that ships with the program. It still says key does not exist. Where are we calling this from? Where's the... Line 4787. Oh, so I have to literally make it. Okay. Oh, you know what? I think this occurs... It's the operator. I think we have to turn off, like, data's initialized or something. Let me see. What was it called? It's called initial setup complete. Because I think operator... This operator, like, fails... Yeah. If this is turned on. And it gets turned on at the end of the game loading. Although... Pre-cache new levels happens... Yeah, it happens during, the game starting, so... We have to say it's false now. This was more of a safety thing because it was very easy to write and overwrite values in this data structure. So I added this as like a kind of a safety. It's like if I really wanted to change values in a data file, I would have to be very explicit about it, saying I actually want to do this. So we have to add that every time. But we don't do this much, so that's expected. Okay. So now, it shouldn't be a problem, but it actually did catch this earlier because I wrote it like this, and it would have been created if this was the default version of the OLC util data file, which then would have caused some behavior I probably was not expecting. So, it's actually a good thing to do that, to prevent accidents. It's the same reason why I made that safe map before, because I wanted to use that operator brace syntax, but at the same time, I didn't want it to create the keys if they were not created. So I essentially made that to make sure we weren't doing the wrong operation, but we could still use the I guess, the easy syntax. I've been considerably doing an entire game using Lua for all of my config and map file formats. Really? Nice. It's probably a good thing. Just making as much of it in data files as you can. Okay, so... This is this going through more than once? Are we just in an infinite loop? No, that can't be right? There's no way. Why are we... Oh, yeah, it's doing it again. Why are we in an infinite loop? So that must mean that one of these conditions is not being satisfied. Let's take a look on the next iteration. Something's not being satisfied. Because it's reloading the game and then it's checking that again and saying there's still no pre-cache for any of these stages, which it's clearly making right now. So, also hopefully these are not optimized out. They probably are though. At least this one might be. Cache timestamp does differ from last write time. So are we even writing this file? Let's look at that first. I think that'll tell us a lot. I guess it would be in here. Okay. So here's the resulting file. We can see it just stored every timestamp. And these were all... It says the 23rd. that would be about what I would expect. But you can see these are all timestamps very close to each other. So these must be the current time and not the time of the files. Is that right? Last write timestamp is what we wrote. File last write time. For map file name, which we regenerated on at this moment. Okay, I see what's happening. We say we're gonna add this to the map cache queue, we generate it, then it makes a timestamp out of it, and now the timestamp is different from when we first made this. So we have to get the timestamp after the file's been made from the map cache. Okay. How could I do that? It's almost like I have to do this function... So the order should be generate anything in the map cache, then check for and pre-cache new levels? Okay, this is a little confusing. Chicken or the egg? Okay. So I think my issue is if they don't even exist in the first place, like these timestamps, they have to be generated. Let's see. Maybe, because we can detect when a map cache generation is done. That's when we have to actually do the file writing. So we can't do the file writing here. It's just not possible. We have to iterate through all the maps again later and write these file stamps. I think that's the only sane way to do this. So I guess we can still read from it, we just can't write to it at this time. So I'm gonna bring over these two into here, and I'll probably clean this up into a little lambda or something in a bit, because this is less related to actually doing map caching stuff. But this is essentially the moment that map caching has finished, and it's ready to go back to the main menu. So we will need this, and we will need these. So bringing all that in here, and then we need to iterate through all maps, probably here, and we'll need game map data. Okay, so also need the last write timestamp from here, and I think we also need it for there, so we'll keep that in there at least. And then this is where we would actually write every single map's write timestamp. We'll need the file name as well. None of this should ever change, so we're good. Okay. Yes. So that should be correct. Now it will write all the new timestamps once all the regenerating is done, which means these files should all be written to at this point. Okay, so then these timestamps will be correct, which means the next time we check for them, these statements, one of these statements should be false, which means, or both of these statements should be false eventually. So we'll expect one rewrite, and then after that we're good. Hopefully. Fingers crossed. Yes. So there it goes, generating all the files. La 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 la. And now... Oh, nope. Didn't work. We're still doing it. Okay. Well, I guess let's see where what the timestamps are now. Because, I mean, this makes sense. This is when they were first generated, but it's going to do it again, so are the timestamps going to change again? I guess they would, because the files are regenerating again. So I think it must be the if statements now. But yeah, these have changed once again. So we're gonna assume this exists because they definitely should by now. And then, let's see. This would exist. This would have the property if we read it from it. Oh, we don't read from it. Okay. Well, I deleted the read, so that's my fault. I put the read over here. We don't actually have to read from over here, so that's my bad. I don't even need to, yeah, I don't even need to populate it over there. Realistically, I'm just gonna rewrite it from scratch every time, so... Wait, no, it is there. I see it. Okay, so we do read. I guess I want to grab... Well, I assume it's reading that correctly. Alright, Moros. Take care. And hopefully you consider the idea for the Emscript and file system stuff. I think that would be amazing, honestly. But yeah, thanks for hearing me out. And thanks for tuning in. Okay. So I confirm that we actually populate this, assuming the file exists, which it does. Then... You know what's weird, though? I don't think this... Like, I want to put the config file here is the thing. It should be under, like, assets/config or something. And we do have a config path thing. So I should be putting everything under there. Yeah, it's supposed to be config path plus whatever. So I am going to move it for the sake of that, for consistency, and I'm just like... We're actually only including stuff that are in... Oops, and that we're screaming now. Okay. Also, it includes the leading slash, so I just have to make sure I don't have a leading slash inside the map precache thing, and I don't. So it's gonna be those two braces followed by config path s and map precache timestamp config s. Yeah. Something's going on with the syntax. Oh, I see. Okay. After that, read from said file. So this is... Oh my gosh, why do I keep hitting the dumb caps lock? So this is the precache configuration file. File path. I'm trying to be more specific about whether it's a file, like a file handler, or a file path now. A file path should just be a string. At least that's what I've decided. And then any file handle would actually just be called like the file, because I'm going to be manipulating it or using it that way. So I've been trying to do that more lately, just to make things a little less confusing. Like either file name or file path, either works. Okay. So why wouldn't this work then? Because we know it has the property, we've already detected that, so we're going to read and get string would be not equal to the last write timestamp, which comes from up here, and we standard format it in the same way. And then we write it like that when we close everything out. So the only explanation is that the last write time here and the last write time here do not match, which would there be a case where that's true? I'm trying to think if there would be a case where that is true. I don't think so. But I think it would be immensely helpful if we build the debug version of this now and really start figuring out what's going on. Because we're going to have to go probably like step by step. Be like, okay, we got to here, it's calling add to map cache queue. These two booleans are getting met in the right conditions. We can check each of these functions to make sure they're properly returning what they're supposed to do. Because I kind of just wrote this all in one go, so it's likely there's a bug here I'm not catching. Maybe it's this statement, because it's a little confusing because we either don't have to have a property in the map, which means that map doesn't exist, or the cache timestamp differs from last write time, which logically saying it, that does make sense, but is that actually what this means? So what if the file system doesn't exist? Then it says it's the same, right? But then we're also checking if precache file exists, but that's only from the game pack. If it doesn't exist on our hard drive but exists in the game pack, does that necessarily mean the timestamps differ? I would say yes. Right now we're not having that issue, but I could see that being an issue. So we might have to say that precache file exists if it exists locally on our hard drive and it exists on the game pack? Because that's where we would get the date, but I don't think it's accurate to say the timestamp would be the same if this file doesn't exist. Like, all these statements have to be true. So if any of these are false, file system has to exist, but the timestamp can also differ if the file system doesn't have that file, or does not have this property. Or all these statements are true, but then these two statements are checked by the other two or statements. So then these can go away now because they're redundant. So I think that's what we're looking for. Either this doesn't exist, or this doesn't exist, or they both exist and we just see if the timestamps now don't match. Okay, so that's what we end up with. Logic-wise. So let's go ahead and try that. Hopefully this makes sense. And then we'll just do a quick check up here because we know this is gonna run again. And we'll go from there. Oh, this is gonna take forever though, because debug takes forever. I might, for the sake of getting through this faster, I'm going to delete other levels for now. Because I'm like, I don't want to deal with all that right now, so I'll just put these 5 stages or so. And then, yeah. I don't want to... I forgot, it takes like 5 minutes to generate these on debug mode. So I really don't want to have to deal with that. Oh, abort has been called. Boss 1B is not a valid map. Oh, something needs it for an unlock? Okay. I figured there would be some map dependencies. Let me just... Surely the stage levels don't matter. I'll delete the stage levels. And I'll keep the bosses. Of course, I'll put them all back later, but just for now. The boss stages are sometimes used for unlock conditions, so it only makes sense that it would complain if they don't exist. Okay. What is oh yeah, we're stuck. So, pre-cache file currently exists, and it says the map cache is out of date, which... We haven't really touched the files, so maybe it's a good time to actually check for that? Check why it's out of date? But anyways, we'll get to here again and see what happens. After... Well, I guess we could check it now, huh? So... Has property... returned false. Really? Has property hub. Oh, because it's not... Hub is not part of level data. So it would generate that again, technically? Let me see. Yeah, it's never part of level data. So no matter what... Although now I'm confused, because it's like... Why would it not have an entry if we wrote to it earlier? It's the same, Yeah, I'm just a little confused. Let me just run this through, at least one time. And then we'll get to here again. Yeah, if I had to do every single stage, this would take an awful amount of time. So we just got back to the beginning. Let's look at the pre-cache timestamps now. So I see hub is in here now. Maybe I just couldn't find it earlier or something. But yeah. These are all timestamps that were just like a couple seconds ago, so that makes sense. And so now, let's see what happens. So we're first doing map, intro map. The last right timestamps it grabs from that is at 2018-33, which matches up with what we have here. And then this is the critical one we're interested in. So first we check if it has the property intro map. It should. Okay. I don't know why an equal sign got added, but oops. Okay. So that returns that it doesn't have the property? What? That's weird. Is that not... Hold on. It doesn't have the property intro map? It's literally right there. What? Okay, hold on. Alright, different map, hub. For some reason, has property is not returning correctly. So, find first of... Okay, there's no dots, so this should be, yeah, and pause. So that returns and map objects. Oh, the map is not populated with any objects. It needs an object? Hold on. Did I do this wrong? Cache timestamps data gets populated. Let me get out of here. Is this populated? Okay, so our read is not working. Oh, I forgot we have a new file path. Okay, so let's fix that file path on the other side first, because I forgot we changed it. So it's going to be this now. Okay, let's try that again. Because I didn't realize this is the old file. We're not actually reading from that one anymore. We're reading from assets config pre-cache data. So there should be one of those in here after we run this again. That might have been the only flaw since I fixed the logic up a bit. Hopefully that's the only flaw. Because I'm like, oh, why is has property not working? That's very strange. Okay, so it should now begin the pre-caching. And then once the pre-caching process has been done one time, we should then expect a file in here called pre-cache timestamps or something. Timestamp data. Okay, there it is. So it is trying to regenerate them again. So now it's time to find out why, right? So we'll see. I'm just waiting for it to hit this again because it's generating the really big level. We are not hitting this for whatever reason. Okay. Intro map at 2022 49. That's what it is. So let's see what's failing now. So has property intro map should be returning true now because map objects does have all these. That's correct. So yes, this time it returns true. Next we do operator this to check for the name map or intro map, which it should exist, so it should just return the vector of objects. And that returns MV content with size of 1, which should be our data. So now we're going to do get string on that data item. So it should return MV content and item, which is the 2026 February 23rd, 2022. So far, so good. So now we have to compare that to our last write timestamp, which is equal. Those two, at least from what I can tell, are indeed equal. So that statement should also return true. And differs from last write time returns false, because these two are equal. So this should not differ, which means that returns false. So that's correct. So now the map cache out of date. If not cache timestamps data has property, or cache timestamp differs. So it should have the property intro map. We already knew that, right? So returns true. And then we not it, so that's gonna be false. Like this statement right here is false. Then cache timestamp differs from last write time is false, so map cache out of date is false. Pre-cache file does exist. Oh, so this logic is wrong. It's supposed to be if we don't have a pre-cache file, or the map cache is out of date. Okay, so that's where we went wrong. Okay. Let's run it one more time and make sure we don't end up in that loop anymore. I expect now it won't even preload anything because the timestamps should match. And then we'll test the modifying thing. We'll try modifying one of these maps real quick. And it should detect only that map has to be regenerated. Then it will save the timestamps again and wait for yet another change. And we can try the other option, which is adding a new map to the levels file. So we can see here nothing was preloaded. It just assumed everything's working. Good. So next, let's modify, let's do a short one. That way I'm not messing with making it load too long. So let's just mess with boss 1 real quick. I think it's boss 1v2 though. Yes. So let's modify that file. And let's just do this. Let's just put this tile in this corner, because why not, right? Then I'm gonna hit save. And I'm actually gonna undo it, hit save again, because that'll just make the write time be updated without me actually changing anything. I'm gonna go ahead and restart the game, and this time it should detect that that level has to be recached. And so it will only redo that level. Everything else will remain untouched. Okay, so it didn't do it. That's interesting. Okay. But I think we can say for sure that the map has been... Oh, you know what? I'm checking for the map file modified time of the pre-cache file, not the actual map file. Okay. That's a bit harder, right? Because it would be... Well, it wouldn't be harder because I just have to look in a different directory. I would be in campaigns under here. Okay, yeah. So we have to look at these map files because I only want to update it when the map file updates. So we gotta store this actually somewhere. So it would be... Let's get out of here. So map file name is not asset/cache/this because that's not the timestamp we're concerned with. We're actually looking for asset/campaign/ whatever the map file name is .tmx. I even think the tmx part is not right. Hi Sticky, I got the heart. Aww. Heart. Heart. Did you see my DM? Not yet. Thanks for letting me know. I'm okay. I ate the bagel. But thank you for keeping my health, in mind. No, that's not how that works. You're not dead, I promise. Okay, good. I'm glad. Also, hi, Plasticky. Okay, so we found out we're reading the wrong file that we're not interested in, so we're changing that. But we have to get the actual map file. So I think that's in a different data structure. Because the map data is just the map name itself, so we have to actually read from the map data map for the map file name. So this would be file name? Is it map name? Yep, map name. I want to say that's correct, but name, map type, no. I need the actual file name. I don't even know if the file name is included in here, honestly. I feel like it should be. Map data, map type. I don't know where I would get the file name from. Do we even store the file name? That's the real question. Because the name is not what I'm looking for. At least I don't think it's what I'm looking for. We could check. Let's actually look at what this data structure looks like. Because it appears to me it's not quite as it seems. So let's take a look. You're still not stepping today. You have to do your SMX set. That was the whole point of you doing all this. You even told the girlies. You're not gonna bail on the girlies. I know you're not. I'm calling your bluff. I know you. No, I didn't make you eat mold. You caught yourself, girl. You're fine. You're fine, I promise. Alright. So let's just look at one of these. We're looking for a map file name, if it exists. Yeah, I don't see anything about that. I see layer data, tile set data, which has file names for tile sets. So I'm fully of mold now. God. Okay. So do we need to store the file names? I guess is the next question. It kind of looks like we do. Oh no, we do have the file names. It's in levels. We have to look at the level data. Which I thought was map data, but it's not quite the same. It's like map to level name or something. So let's look for that. It's like map file. Let me go to members. Map file name or something. Map file name. Okay, those are just variables. And this is only for this folder. It should be file. It should be for everything. Here we go. So look for file name. inside external items, entire solution. And we're looking for, can you stop changing this, please? File name. Specifically, map file name. I could have sworn I made something like this. Like, convert to map file name or something. Map to map file name. Map. Alright, let's try this. Do I have any classes called map? Not that. Map helper. Okay, so there's a map helper class. Map from string. I don't think that's what we want. That's probably just enum to... Yeah, that's just key to the map format. I guess I'm just gonna read from this. Like, that's really all we can do. So, like, the data's already there. We just have to read from it. So, I was hoping for, like, a nice function. A nice function for the developer. That would be great. But no. So instead, it's going to be campaigns slash whatever this is supposed to be. So data, it would be levels. And then one more level down is the actual map name. And then we get the string from a map file. Get string. And that should be the actual map file itself, which is what we're actually interested in getting the file last write time from. Yes. And of course this file exists, so this isn't what this means anymore. Now we're also interested in the cache file name, which is what we used before. So we have to like back up here for a second. Grab this and use that as like the map cache file name instead, because we still are interested in that to determine if a cache file exists. But why do we care? Because if there's no cache, then we know for sure that we're making one anyways, but we already checked that with pre-cache file. So maybe this actually is pointless. I was questioning it earlier, right? Like, why do we check for that? We don't really need to. We're just interested if we have a property in the pre-cache timestamps, write that in. And so now we have to go back here and say, okay, use the map file name from here instead. And that's what we're actually going to write as the last write file time. I think that'll fix everything. So we're going to try this one more time. Go ahead and run this again. Rebuild. Also, I'll go throw away that bread while I'm waiting. Yeah, once again, thanks for letting me know. Okay, so right now it's generating the map caches. Shouldn't loop. And it is looping. Okay. So why is it doing that, right? Let's find out. What is going on? Moldy bread equals ground zero of IRL Last of Us. Okay, so we're basically back to the beginning here. Let's look at the pre-cache timestamps file. We can see now the dates are drastically different, like some of these maps were modified in 2024, which actually makes sense. We only want to detect if these map files have changed, not necessarily the cache files generated from them, which means we can go back to our original paradigm, I think, of we only detect, we can write it in there, right? Because I'm not using the dates of the files I'm writing to. So I kind of want to bring all this back now. We've kind of come full circle here. But I want to figure out what's wrong with this first. So, map file name, that's fine. Next is the last write timestamp, which it says was 2024. And then we're going to compare that to what's in the file, which we did read, right? Yes. So we read those in. Those are the contents of them. Yes, so they have what we're looking for in this example. It's exactly what it shows there. I'm going to say, okay, does the pre-cache file exist? It does not. So because it doesn't exist, it's going to add that to the map cache queue. So why doesn't it exist? I don't know. I feel like it should know it exists now. That's a little strange, right? Is it because save pack is only called at the end of loading? But even then, it gets called here as the last loading screen phase. So we would suspect that it would actually save it, and we can... Does save pack necessarily mean it's going to be updated, though? I mean, I assume so, right? There's no reason it shouldn't be. Yeah, I don't understand why it wouldn't be. So... But right now it's false. It says that this file name does not exist. Oh, because now it's looking for the map file. So for this, we care about the cache file. Okay, got it. So those two are not the same anymore. I'm understanding now. So I'm gonna have this and use that specifically to check if the pre-cache file exists. So that was probably the reason why it was looping. So at the same time, let's move this back over. So we can write at the same exact time, as long as we are writing the actual file timestamp and not the cache file's timestamp, because we're actually writing to those at that moment. Which is good, because that simplifies that a lot, and I like that. We also have to save, or write. Okay. Alright, let's try this one more time, shall we? This time, it will probably detect that we already have pre-cache files, so it's not going to ask for that again. Unless the files get changed, which is exactly what we're looking for. So we can see here the game just kind of started on its own. And now what we're going to do is modify a file. Again, we'll do that map. I'll just change something and then do a force save here. Then undo and save again. That'll change the write time of this file. And heck, I can even go in like here, because every time it tries to load, I think it will do this. Or maybe it's only on the main menu. I think it's only on the main menu. Let me just load this file. And then I'll go back to the title screen. Which when I do... There we go. It's generating the map cache for boss 1 again. Then it goes to the title screen. So that now works correctly. So the next thing I want to do is make it so we try and add something to the levels.txt file. So every time we go to the main menu, it checks for new stuff. New map caches, or needs to update something. Hey there, Tiger. Welcome. We're currently finishing up the map pre-caching stuff, just doing some final fixes to it. So let's say we added a new map. In this case, I'm adding campaign 7.1 with a copy of 1.6, just for testing purposes. So I'm just calling it 7.1, and it's going to be a copy of 1.6 dash copy. I'm pretty sure that's what we made it. 1_6 space dash space copy. I'm gonna go ahead and save that. And our game's still running, so I'm gonna go back to the main menu. Oh, you know what? But map data doesn't update. So unless we re-trigger an update of data, we do have to restart the game, which is fine. I more care about us whenever we restart the game that everything works right. So it should now detect there's a brand new level in this file, and it has no pre-cache file. So it's now going to generate a cache for it. All other maps are up to date, so it's not going to regenerate those. So here it detects it's generating map 7.1. Loading is super fast now. It is. After this. After this pre-caching stuff. But yes. And then it loads the title screen again, and that level's now cached. So, it looks like we finally have the correct behavior. I'm just going to restore this levels file back to its original state, because we have essentially fixed everything. Okay, so I'm going to leave it here. I'm also going to delete that test file I made. because we don't really want to keep that around. And now I'm going to recompile the game in release mode, and we'll just have it run all the map caches one more time. So basically what you missed was us finally writing, at least in some kind of config file, that all the different write times of our map. So if we ever change one of these maps, we just compare it to this timestamp, and when they're different, it goes ahead and reloads it for us. That way, if the maps ever change, at least that way we have it regenerating a new copy. And we just finished messing around with this. We did get it into an infinite loop at one point, because we were using the map cache file as the file we got the timestamp from, and that meant every time we regenerated the cache, it made a new file which had a new write time, so it just kind of went into an infinite loop earlier, which is kind of funny. But yeah, right now it's just generating everything, and then from here on out, it will only generate new map caches of new maps, or we'll regenerate these if I have to regenerate the resource pack at some point. I think the only reason I was avoiding, or I was trying to read from the file system for the cache file was because I'm like, oh, I don't want to have to regenerate this if I have to delete the asset pack, but I have to put these files back in there anyways. So now we can load up any file and go to any map, and we have it all cached, so if we just start it, it's basically instant now. So this map used to take, even on release mode, around 5 seconds to load. Now it's basically instant, and same with all the other maps in the game. So we have finally successfully integrated everything we pretty much wanted, and loading feels way nicer than before. This map literally doesn't have a starting location, so I'm just here in the middle of nowhere. But it does have stuff. So yeah, this is super nice. I really like that. And all the maps are functioning, like all the objects are there, which is great. As I say that, I'm running into stuff that's not quite right. Okay, never mind. These aren't here. What's going on here? Something's not right. Okay, there's supposed to be more stuff here. I guess we're not done. Let me try to figure out what's going on. So first, let me go to another stage, because I want to see what this one looks like. This one has stuff on both the upper and lower foreground, so I think it's a real good test subject, I guess you could say. Oh, you know what it is? I think I know what it is. I think there's supposed to be more stuff unlocked later down the line, but I think this file's broken. Like, this file's in chapter 2, so technically, okay, these layers are supposed to be unlocked. Like, you don't unlock this area for a little bit. Like, at first, when you start the map, you only have this, and then you get more stuff. So eventually this unlocks, this part of the map changes, like, all these things occur over time, but I think this system isn't working. Like, the unlock system for it isn't quite working right, so we gotta figure out what's going on there. Just trying to think where would I start for that? I think... because we are in chapter 2, so technically these should be visible. So, like, the unlock condition is not activating for some reason. But I remember when we were originally working on the pre-cache stuff, there was something about an unlock condition. So maybe we have to look at that again a little more closely. So we got one more bug to iron out, but let's at least commit what we have before looking into this further. Alright, so this is pre-caching automatic system implemented and updated the game distribution scripts. Actually, we realize we don't need the cache files, right? Yes, we don't actually need the cache files. That's just there as like a local thing. So technically, I don't need to do what I did in these. We don't have to include that folder anymore. So I'm actually gonna undo these changes. If I can. Can I undo this, please? Let me undo it. I guess I have to undo it in here. So, unstage and then undo? Yeah. Okay. Let me just undo both of those changes, because we don't need to do that. So I'm going to remove that part of the commit message, and this is release build 12678. Okay, cool. Now to figure out this one bug. I think it's related to the unlock conditions for maps. So what I want to do is let's first go to the tile group loader, and let's take a look again at the tile data, because I think an unlock condition either exists in here or somewhere nearby, right? So we have like tile sheet. That doesn't have what I'm looking for. I guess first we have to figure out how the game determines, ironically I wrote it but I don't remember, how it determines what to show. Like, this is everything that's supposed to show. When we loaded up the game, all we saw were these three items. The rest were hidden, and that's by design. These layer names are things that unlock over time, and we can see here there's a custom property called layer unlock condition, and you basically select any particular event you're interested in to be the quote-unquote unlock condition for this layer. If you have that flag in the game set, that layer appears, or should appear. So that's what I was talking about. Like with these have like little cross things on it. The beds appear. So they actually were appeared, I'm pretty sure we saw them. So those were kind of working, I guess, but we didn't see these guys, that's for sure. And we didn't see any of these props. So we need to figure out what's going on with that. So now that we know what this property is called, let's look for it in our project. Layer unlock condition. So we gotta start there. Okay, TMX parser has something. So it gets set under the layer, under unlock condition. So I guess our next step is to find out where we utilize this. So we have if unlock is unlocked. Now we can recall that this statement is actually here when we're generating the map cache. So that's interesting, because this is, well, it's not here, but if we go into another, let's go back to Adventures in Lestoria, and let's go under prepare level. So now I'm starting to think in my head, oh no, we're gonna have to add the unlock condition as a property of the tiles. That way we can check against it when we're doing this. So you can see here, when we're doing the foreground and upper, this is the stuff we ended up caching in our data. There's that line again. Is this layer unlocked? So when we pre-cache, we're actually going to ignore tiles that have an unlock condition we haven't unlocked yet, which means our pre-cache will be wrong or snapshotted based on when we do it. And now that I'm thinking about it, we first did the pre-caching at the beginning of the game, when the game automatically sets the chapter to 1, you have nothing unlocked, like no stages unlocked, so that makes sense that the camp is completely underdeveloped. So obviously we have to make this react to whatever changes we have, which means we have to store in the game tiles what the unlock condition is, and can't just include it here. So that's going to require a little bit of data structure re-engineering. Not too bad, but a little bit. So essentially what we have to do is do every layer anyways, regardless if the unlock condition is met. And then each tile in there has to have a special unlock condition if it has one. So not every layer has an unlock condition. So for the ones that don't, we don't really care about hiding them. So let me see here. Unlocks. So also this could be a const standard string ref while we're in here. Just kind of random. Okay, so we're gonna take it from the layer and apply it to all tiles in the layer if there is an unlock condition. So it looks like is unlocked simply checks Come on. Simply checks either the map name, there is an unlock value, in which case it returns it. Well, it returns if it, whether or not the unlock exists. Well, let me see. Oh, I see. As we play through the game, the list of unlocks populates. If we find an unlock when we check for it, that's when we do this. And then we compare the unlock name we're interested in to right here. Sometimes the unlock condition is blank. And if it is, then it's considered unlocked. I wonder if there's just a default. There might be. Like, I didn't think about that. Like, what's the layer unlock condition of these by default? It looks like nothing. It looks like a very custom property. Event layer. Oh, okay. Yeah, these just don't have any. So it's considered unlocked already? I'm a little confused, right? Unlock, initialize. World map is unlocked by default, always. But like, when we're looking at this, it's like, does the unlock for the blank map exist? Is that how it knows? Like, now I'm curious. Not every layer has this thing. Does it get added? Oh wait, let's go look at TMX parser one more time. Do we have a default in here? Oh, we do. Look, it's just blank. And then go back to TMX parser one more time. Looking for layer unlock condition. Set unlock condition to value. But yeah, there's a blank by default. But how does it know blank is an unlock condition, you know? Because even the empty string, by default, it wouldn't be considered unlocked? Like, that's what I'm thinking here. How does it know? That's what I want to know. How does it know? Like, unless we insert a blank name, it's not known by default. Unlock area. Yeah, now I'm curious, right? That just makes me confused. Because it's like, clearly we're seeing all these tiles. Oh, you know what? Maybe if it's not an event layer, it's just automatically rendered. But there's nothing in this function that says so. I am just very confused how it renders stuff when there's no property for it. Compared to these, like, go to another one. None of these layers have that property. How does it know to render these layers? The unlock condition would be the blank string. I guess we'll see. Let's just run the game and see what happens, right? Because any old map, if we get to this point, should run this line of code if it's rendering. So surely we'd be able to see what the unlock condition would be. I'm just very much confused how this code works right now. And in order to do anything useful with this code, I do need to know, hey, how does this code work? Because this code we haven't touched in a long time either, so having to re-understand it is important. And if I don't know why something's happening, well, that just makes everything worse. Oh, this is during a loading phase too. Okay, let me think about that. So if a foreground or a background, upper foreground layer, tile layer, does not have an unlock condition, how does that work? So this is only doing, well, okay. Is there one during a caching phase? Okay, this is interesting because we added map caching, so now this isn't going to run unless I disable the map caching or quote-unquote change a file. So ironically, me adding the map caching system doesn't let me test this instantly. So let me do this. Let's just do intro map because we're already at the intro map. Let me just modify tile and unmodify it and save. And then let's breakpoint right here. And let's load game and then go back to the title screen, and it should detect there's been a change in that file. So now we're in here. What is the unlock condition? Okay, I think it's optimized out, which is unfortunate. This isn't though. So current level is intro map, so we can look in there. Intro map, look at the layer data, right? Layer 0, Unlock condition is blank. So we can see here clearly unlock condition is blank. So let's actually go here. So we can go into this function, hopefully not optimized out, and unlocks. There is one key called world map. So our map name is blank. Oh, that's what does it. We check for map length is 0. How did I ignore that this whole time? I was looking for like map name is equal to double quotes, but instead I got map name.length is equal to 0, which is essentially the same thing. Okay, so that's how that works. I was very confused. I really wish I caught that earlier. Okay. So now that makes sense. Back to the original problem. Let's go to our camp. And so because we're pre-caching the layers, the tiles have to store whether or not they're gonna appear or not. Which adds another Boolean check when they're rendering, but luckily these aren't like prevalent. There's not like millions of them on screen. It's only a couple at a time. So this is not a very expensive check to do in real time, but we do have to render all of them. So this unlock condition will go away from here. And now we have to figure out how we're going to render things layer by layer, respecting this layer condition, this unlock condition, because otherwise they shouldn't be there, period. And so we got to figure that part out next. But right now, as we can see, everything gets loaded. So that is another problem when it comes to tile collisions, is they have to be checked for whether or not they're unlocked too. So that's going to be interesting, right? So two things to look at here, both the rendering and then the collisions. They're both important. I think this is the only place we check for unlocks though, so let me double check. Unlock is unlocked. That is loading phase 7, which isn't cached. Get tile collision. This function does get called, doesn't it? But it's checking on the fly, which makes sense. So this is what determines whether or not we actually bump into it while we're playing the game. So that works. And then here, that's the layer above the bridge. So right now we're still in get tile collision. Okay. It looks like that's the only place we have to change. Okay, so now let's handle the rendering. So let's see. We're looking for the spot where we're rendering per layer. I already have the unlock is unlocked layer condition here, so that's interesting. So we didn't see it, but we were supposed to, right? So it was only the upper and lower foreground groups that weren't rendering right, but then here we check for it too? Alright, let's look at that then. So foreground tiles, tile groups. Foreground rendering preparation. Iterate throughout tile groups. Tiles with collision. So this is where, let's see. We go through each group. Do the groups know what layer they're on? What tile layer? Tile dot hello. It's supposed to be tile render data. Man, IntelliSense is not having it today. We do have a layer ID. Okay, that's helpful. Because the layer ID at least lets us index into layers, which should be what we're looking for. So I think we can use that to get somewhere. So let's try looking at our layers in our map. I think that's just current map layer data. Get current map. And then we're looking for layer data. It really is. Get layers. I guess that's the same thing. And then we look at specifically the layer ID here. And we're going to say, okay, we only care about rendering and adding this with tiles with collision if if it actually is unlocked, right? So what does the group have? Not just per tile, but the actual group itself. Because I'm not going to be able to single out a single tile from these. Or maybe I can. You know what? I actually could, couldn't I? Because we have to push back tiles here. It's just the groups tell us where they originally are starting at. There is one trick I can do right now with this IntelliSense thing that I might try to do. Yeah, I think let's do this real quick. We go to options and we go to, I'm looking for, I think, database. We go to the advanced dialog. There is an option called recreate database. And if we set to true and press OK, then we close Visual Studio. Visual Studio will literally get rid of every single, basically rid of it of whatever it's currently going through with temporary files and stuff, and redo everything from scratch. So essentially we're just going to get a whole new run through of IntelliSense, which tends to help clean it up a little bit. It'll take a while for it to populate everything again and figure out what the heck's going on, but it might help. It tends to help sometimes to clean it out. So what I need to do now is, for each of these tiles, say if get current map, get layers tile layer ID, and then we look at the unlock condition. Pretty much you're resetting its cache, yeah, more or less. But again, when you do that, it's going to take a while for it to catch up. So we can get its unlock condition here, and then we say unlock is unlocked. Then we decide to actually render this tile. And we're going to do that for all tiles. Yeah, this is Visual Studio. Okay. And hopefully with that, that might be all we have to do actually. This has to do with rendering, but it's only for foreground tile groups, so we also have to do this for upper foreground tile groups, I think. We'll have to see. But yeah, tiles with collision is what I'm curious about. Because this stuff, I don't actually know why we have this. Like, what is this for? Other than it's just called tiles with collision. Oh, okay, tiles without collision are considered permanent foreground rendering, whereas tiles with collision are not. Oh, I'm also searching for the wrong thing. Okay, but tiles with collision, obviously looking for a collision range when it comes to the group itself. And those are the ones that fade out and in, which I guess is why they're split up. Rendering before tile depth rendering. And also they get their own rendering, which is tiles with collision, followed by monsters, followed by drops, followed by player. I remember figuring that mess out a while back. So in theory, we have to regenerate all the pre-cache files now, because all the pre-cache files assumed that some things were locked, which is not the case. So I'm just going to delete the game pack and restart the game. That's the only way to regenerate all the cache quickly. I don't want to modify every map file, that's just silly. Also, what? Oh my god. Sometimes Visual Studio will focus the window on something else, and then I press a key and then it breaks everything, so. It added the G key there. Unfortunately, that's a major header file too, so it's gonna be like, oh, this changed, now I have to recompile everything again. So that's fun. But yeah, it looks like if we just stop it earlier on from being added to the render lists, everything else just kinda goes in place with it. It will be fine. Just stopping it here, essentially. Because I don't see where else it might be, so. Foreground tiles. That's the loading phase, though. Oh my gosh. Okay. Yes. Alright, game's regenerating all the files again. And this time it's not gonna assume any, what do you call it? Unlock conditions? So it's just gonna generate all the maps in full, and then what we have to do is filter out the maps based on those unlock conditions. So again, the biggest one is the camp. If we start a brand new file, none of the other camp areas are loaded. So like this file should be fine. All the camp areas should be loaded if we go look now. Oh, I was already there. So yes, we can see all the camp items areas are here. The hiding is not there, which I'm not sure why. I guess we have to figure that out. They shouldn't be based on an unlock condition, but for some reason they're just not. Like, you should be able to walk behind these and they fade away. Like this tree. But this tree is on its own little, like... Well, actually, maybe not. I'm trying to think, is there a reason I didn't fade these out? Maybe it's because it's like, it has nothing to do with combat? Let me see. Because that's usually a property of the tile set. So maybe I did do that without thinking. Or maybe it was intentional, I mean. So like this fireplace, or this campfire, it's considered a foreground tile and the hide property is off. So yeah, it looks like I didn't want these to hide. Intentional decision. Which I guess is fair. Yeah, I turned the hide property for all these objects off. That's very interesting. But normally, let's go to the terrain tile sets. Typically these are on, like, yeah, we normally hide these, so for some reason I decided not to hide those. I guess it was just an aesthetic choice. Like, we're not fighting anything, we don't care about seeing behind them, I guess. No, they only fade if I turn on that property. So I guess that's fine. But now we have to test... Okay, so does the unlock condition work? Let's try a brand new file. So this character doesn't even have base camp unlocked. Let me just do this real quick. Oh. Trying to close out of no menu. Why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? We're calling close all menus from change... What? Yeah, from change state? Apparently this is... What? The stack is of size 0, but isn't this function based on the stack? Stack size is greater than 0. Close all menus. Because it says it was running from line 79, which is down here. I assume this has been optimized out, so... I need to see if this occurs, or where this occurs on debug, because on release mode... it literally is optimized out. But yeah, that function should only run if there's no menu. Or if there is a menu open. So we should never be in a state where we try to close all menus if there's nothing open. I don't understand why that would even occur. That's new. That definitely did not happen before. It's amazing how many bugs can appear from just trying to make one additional change to your game, right? It's kind of insane. Like, we started this last week with the intent of, oh, we're going to pre-cache that little loading phase to... We had to figure out, okay, why don't the tiles actually render? Why we can't just change the game state on the fly? Why are menus still open? All sorts of funny things. Oh yeah, I typically try to add weird states when it comes to my games because... Or try to add asserts for weird states because I'm like, this should never be empty. So if it is empty, something went terribly wrong. Like, that's how I always think about it, right? Like, if I'm writing, like, an if statement like this, I'm like, okay, stack size needs to be greater than 0, and I always think about the else. I'm like, well, what if it wasn't? Well, that means if nothing's supposed to happen, sometimes I'm like, well, that means something terrible happened. So I like to think that way because if your code ends up in an unexpected state, it will crash at that given time. That's the hope anyway. Okay, so we're able to replicate that in debug, so that's good. So, let's see here. We're calling this from an on-state change for state story, where we just immediately close all menus. So, oh, I see how that could have gotten optimized out. Because we called change state, but this probably was already called, so release mode was probably like, oh, you just did this, so you don't have to do it again, this is technically the same call. It would have no effect, but calling it obviously has that one effect of displaying that message. So that's probably what got optimized out, was it's like, well, I'm just gonna display the message now. Because logically, if you close all the menus, if you can follow the logic, then there are no menus open. That's like the side effect of this function. Compiler probably realized that and was like, okay, well, just display the message then. Because that's always going to be the result of doing that. I find compiler optimization fascinating. So we would technically have to add this here too. I would even argue on-state change always happens before change state or after change state. So if we can guarantee menus will always close, we don't even have to bother here. This is not required. So I'm just gonna leave that blank. I like that. Okay. Other than that, let's go back to testing our level 1 character. So we want to see the camp in its before the blacksmith, before the artificer. We want to see it in that state. The tiles should not be rendered and there should be no collision. If either of those occur, then we're doing something wrong. Alright, but we should be able to enter the story mode now, because it's not going to error out anymore. I really need to add a actual, like, skip all the story thing. Because you are required to visit this in order to get to the camp. So it's like, if you don't actually care about this, then you should be able to, like, super skip it. But anyway, we are there. And then let's go here. And let's see. Okay, so stuff is missing, so that's good. That part worked. I'm not able to walk into this stuff, so that's good. So I think we did it. It looks correct. This map is in the state it's supposed to be right now. And then we go to another place. Or another file. Or we just crash. Accessing out of bounds list item 0 of player. When trying to get string in pre-cache new levels. Interesting. Okay, this is for get string here under map file, which is for map what? What map are we interested in? Well, tell me? I don't think it's gonna tell me. It just says accessing out of bounds list item 0 of player, which is interesting because why is it player? Okay, the player thing probably doesn't matter. That's a bug from trying to read something else, but what are we trying to do here? I guess now we go back to debug. Apparently we can't even quit the game without something happening. That's funny. So you can imagine it this way. If a lot of these error messages were not causing my game to crash randomly, imagine what kind of bugs you would end up having that just went silently, like, under the hood, right? And that typically happens if you can't catch stuff early enough. You're just you're just doing stuff in your game, you're making new features, everything's fine, everything looks fine, you test something, you're like, oh, this works great. You move on to something else, and then maybe a week later, everything's, like, wrong. Everything starts breaking, nothing is loading the way it should be, nothing's displaying right. Because stuff is just not in the same state it should be, based on, you know, what you're trying to do. So this is a chapter 3 character, so everything should be there. And it is. So we can see everything's back with collision. I'm gonna try quit again. I wonder if it's just that save file. I'm gonna guess maybe that save file is bugged. But let me try loading that save file. It's entirely possible this character is just busted from testing at some point in time. Although we've, like, saved the game a bunch, so it's like, I don't understand why it would be broken. Oh. Yeah, it's fine. Now I'm worried because it's like, this is a bug I just can't produce easily. That's a little concerning. Well, I did go into story mode, right? Let's try that again. Let's try replicating the exact same steps. I went to story mode, and then I went to the camp, and then I quit the game. That's what happened, in that order. My theory is maybe going to the story mode adds it to like the level data or something, and maybe that's what messes it up. Maybe. That's just a theory. Okay. I'm just gonna leave. And let's quit. And we're broken. Okay, so either the story itself or doing both actions together causes this. So, let's find out why. Oh, what map are we trying to read? Aha! There it is. So that's what I thought. Perhaps at some point we're adding this to the list of maps? Okay. And this is why I use a safe map, because I don't want it accidentally adding data when I don't want it to. So I think, while I could go look around and see every place where map data is called, there's going to be a lot, right? I'm going to change this to what I call a safe unordered map. It's a data structure I made a while back, and the idea is I'm supposed to add all the data into it at some point in time. And then after I add all the data, I lock it. When I lock it, I can still use the array syntax like a normal map, but if I try to add anything, the game crashes. And this is why I call it a safe map. It becomes like read only with that operator, and won't let me accidentally create more versions of that, or a new key by accident using that array syntax. So then, if it gets created at some point, it just errors out. So that's why I have this thing called a safe map. I made it a long time ago. It's actually quite useful, and in this situation, it's actually something I want to use. Except I don't know why it's not working. Safe oh, there's no underscore. There's just a safe unordered map. It's also not standard library. And so now I need to change this up a little bit, I think, because there's no well, there should be an iterator. Is there not? It might be, unordered map might be a little unimplemented because I might have forgotten some things, but oh, you know what? Under the hood though, it's a vector, at least by default. And the reason is because I still wanted a way for it to be like ordered, I guess. So it's actually a map that looks up items in a vector. I actually don't know why I did this. It's dumb, because if it's gonna be ordered, why not use an ordered map? But maybe it's because, like, I've been trying to justify this for a long time. A class that has an initialization lock, so when the lock is activated, any further items that get added will report themselves for easier debugging detection. This unordered map should return items inserted in order. Therefore, internally it's hosted as a vector. I'm just confused why this structure exists, and I said this the last time I had this. Like, why does this exist? Versus a normal map. I don't know. I don't know, and maybe I shouldn't try to understand why I have this. I wonder if I can just delete it. What uses this, is the question. I think I asked this last time too. It looks like a couple things use it, but if I'm using it for that, the question becomes, am I using it for the speed of an unordered map? Because technically it takes up more data than using just an unordered map or an ordered map. I don't know. Anyways, tangent. If we go back here now, this is going to be a vector. So it's now going to be a vector of all the maps. And so that will remain the same, but yeah, it's just weird to me. I could use @ but it's a bit more verbose. I just wanted to use the array syntax, so that was the whole reason for making it in the first place. I didn't want to use @ everywhere, because I would just have .@, .@, .@ in every single place. Plus .at just crashes immediately. And essentially I wanted it to, well, I mean, this does crash if it doesn't exist either. So that wouldn't be a reason. But I definitely wanted to keep the array syntax because it was nice. I kind of just wanted the .at functionality in the array syntax itself. But I still also wanted it to be for writing. So you just initialize everything, then you lock it. Because you can see places like here I do use .at. But now, technically I can also do this. And it would be the same thing. So that's nice. Is it useful? It's essentially just another way to write it. But now it actually does work right. Where's the error? Is it here? Oh, yeah, because this is now... Wait. No, this is fine, right? Why am I getting errors? Let's find out. There's probably a couple more loops I have to fix. Yeah, for sure. The number of identifiers must match the number of array elements. It does it not? Oh, okay. Yeah, like I said, we probably have to change a lot of these. So level name. All right. What else? 2819. Cannot convert this pointer from const safe unordered map to safe unordered map reference. Oh, that's interesting. Because at actually returns a vector... Wait. Does it? Type name O. Well, it's non-const. Should it be const? Because it's like, it's using the array syntax of items, which is an unordered map. In order for it to be const, it would also have to be .at. So that might be a typo on my part. You can't const that by default, which is interesting. So it would be const now. Oops. I guess it would be const ref. At returns const ref. Thanks for following. Mtima. That might just be backwards for Namitim something. But yes, welcome. Thanks for following. Starts with is not a member of map. I would hope not. Oh wait, no, map is a string. Why doesn't that work? Yeah, that's okay. Apparently this is supposed to get the map, not the map name. Okay, so it would be map.name. I wonder why originally I was able to get the map name. Oh, I guess I got it by key before, so now it's just get map name. Like so. So it's not level name anymore, now it's just map, which is different. Ooh, that doesn't look right. Unconfirmed references. I don't think I want to change those. I just want to change the very first three. 1, 2, 3. I think that's it. Okay. So that means this has to be get map name too. That's interesting. Do I have to go back and fix the other one as well? Because that's not good. Yeah, I'm basically having to restructure that. So, yeah, instead of getting map name, now we're getting map itself. So we have to get the map name from that. So instead of map, it's now map.getName, which fair, but oops. There we go. And I probably have to do this in a couple other places too, so I'll keep recompiling. We'll see what else we need to do. Because this is actually a very major structure. It's used in a lot of places, so it's bound to crop up in Error City. Seems like it's getting fixed though. Cannot convert from const O to map reference. Okay, let's see. So this is supposed to return... Oh, okay. So this returns a const. Yeah, so we're like forced to return a const reference here. Is that bad? No, it's not bad. We shouldn't be changing any data from it. At least I hope not. So that should be correct. Because that's another thing, is at returns a const version of it. Actually, I don't know if it should. I don't think it's supposed to return a const version of it. Technically, you should have the capability to modify it. Like, is that a thing? I don't think it's necessarily a thing. Apparently it is. I didn't realize .at returns a const version. Maybe that's intended. The expectation is you're not supposed to be able to modify it at all? Have I ever considered that before in design? Like, for example, let's say I have a map of integers. Let me just say standard string to int or something. And I just say my map will have like 1, 1, 2, 2, and 3, 3, right? Something like that. So let's say I have something like that, and then I do my map dot at 2. Are you telling me I can't modify it to 6? I should be able to. Yeah. There must be like more than one version of this. For example, if I ask for a const int ref of this, will at give me a version that is constant ref? No. So it's just not const to begin with. So did I do that? Actually, if I'm looking at it even closer... Okay, so there's two versions. There's a const ref version and a non-const ref version. Okay. I guess that's fair. So, in theory, I should have both too. And it should be able to pick the override it needs. I kind of want to do that then. Right? The question is, how does it determine that? Cannot overload functions distinguished by return type alone. Oh, okay, there we go. So I got an at with an overload. A const one and a non-const one. And I guess it's now decided by the constness of whatever I need. Hi there, RTU Super. Welcome. I suppose I should make this also for the other one. This is called Adventures in Lestoria. It's an action-adventure RPG. That's Rabby Ribby. Adventures in Lestoria. Looks like this. Well, that's the title anyway. And yeah. We're currently in the middle of doing some optimizations, mostly because the game has a few slow spots that I really want to fix up. So we've been working on that lately. Right now I'm just waiting for a recompile. Still have a couple of errors to get through. Looks like a couple more structured bindings we have to convert. So again, did it even take me to the right spot? 3,363. Okay. So on user destroy, which is interesting. This is like when the game is closing. Okay, it's just deleting some raw pointers. So for this, we have to do map data. Well, we can just do map here, because we already have the key, naturally. So it'll look like that instead. And just for the sake of completeness, I'm going to add a const version of at for a regular safe map as well. I still don't know why I have it... Oh, okay. So unordered map is in order of index, like insertion, versus this map is just by hash, whereas an unordered map is just in some undetermined order. So I would argue my unordered safe map is still ordered. It's just ordered in a different way. Okay. So that's fixed. Then we have 3402, where find is not a member of safe unordered map. I believe find it should be. I just don't have it, probably. So let's add it. Which should be... Oh, okay, so key is a little bit tricky, though. Because it's going to actually... It's more like we're finding what's in items, not in map. Because map just has the indices. Same with contains, right? Is this bugged? Yeah, that's not gonna work. The contains is not supposed to return the key type. It's supposed to return... Yeah, like for example, if this was Monster Strategy, we would expect a Monster Strategy function out of this, not another Monster Strategy. That makes no sense. So we would have to do items dot at wherever map.contains points to. Is that right? Because, yeah, T gets stored in the map. So if T is the key, then we look it up through the items vector after locating it via map. And this returns an iterator. This returns the actual item. Wait, no it doesn't. This returns... What does contains return? I think it just returns true or false. Standard unordered map. Wow. Unordered map contains... Yeah, it returns a boolean, so because it returns a boolean, that's not gonna work. We have to actually do an... It's essentially an items.contains, but then we're also not looking for the key inside of the vector. We're looking for an O inside the vector. So it becomes a like standard find of our vec. Items begin to end. Yeah, this is just not implemented right for this data structure. And we're looking for value key. And standard find returns an iterator. So we have to say, in order to make it satisfy contains, we have to see if find is not equal to the end, because I think it returns end if it couldn't find it. I'm pretty sure. So it would look something like this. I don't know if there's a better way to do standard vector find. I don't think there is. I think standard find or find if is your best bet. Get allocator at front back data. Insert pushback erase, pop back resize swap. Erase if. Yeah, so my guess is we're looking at something from algorithms. At least that's my hunch for anything related to this. And I'm guessing find is our best bet. Finds the first element satisfying a specific criteria. We can also do contains. I guess contains would be appropriate too. Standard ranges contains. Checks if the range contains the given element or subrange. Shall we try it? Standard ranges contains. Sometimes ranges don't work out though. Okay, so we need a range, which would actually be just items itself, right? I guess that should technically be a range. We can also do first last value, which I guess would also work. Iterator. Hopefully that works. I think contains is simpler than find because find returns the iterator. Yeah, but I'm trying to replicate it or get something like it. I guess what we could do is look at how contains works in there too. I didn't even think about that. Just to see, right? So now I'm curious. Contains. Calls find. Okay, well, that's very fair. Find last. My first. bucket is okay. So it's basically just doing its own search too, so it's essentially a find, which makes sense. I would expect the underlying implementation would just be a search for it anyways. This doesn't like this though. Let me try the other syntax real quick. See if it likes that one. Because I would just like something that returns 1-to-1 true or false. It still doesn't like it. It just says it can't find like anything that matches those arguments. So I must be doing something wrong with it. Let's see. Because it's saying it needs to be a range. So let's see. Those are implementations. Uses. So this uses arrays as an example. Does stack assert ranges contains? See, that's what I would expect though, for it to just kind of work. I wonder if it only works for arrays. Maybe not. I don't know. I would expect it to also work for this. It's very weird. Let me try it in my example project real quick for fun. Oh, that's not what we want. I can never get the range functions to work the way I want to. Mostly because I'm just not familiar with ranges, but I would expect something like this to work. So here we have a vector of numbers, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then let's say we're gonna do a standard ranges contains, and we'll just say numbers. Let's look for 2, right? On a basic surface level, that's how easy it should be to work with. And it looks like it works, like it's not complaining. So you can say if it has this, then standard print line contains 2, right? So that should work plain and simply, assuming I actually can print. I don't think I can print because I don't have the standard set, and I probably don't have print. I think if I include print, I don't need format. We're all trying to get familiar with ranges, and we're all struggling with it. Yeah. So it says contains 2, so this seems to work. Maybe IntelliSense is just being dumb and trying to trick me, right? I assume with the more complex structure, this should still kind of work, assuming they have an operator equals equals available to it. But in theory, that's all I should have to do. And if it doesn't exist, like I put 6 here, that should not run. One moment. Alright, sorry about that. That was just kind of random. But, wanted to make sure nothing was happening with the leak, which sounds scary. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, that's how we use standard ranges contains, so I expect that we can do it here too. So maybe next time we'll try to make this work. Because this is a vector, so by default, this should be fine. Maybe IntelliSense is just yelling at me about something else, maybe constness? Maybe. Potentially. And then find, well, that we can use standard find. That one actually does what we want it to do. Inside of, it'll be an O for the key. Would it be? Yeah, because we're looking for the object itself, whereas, or no. Hold on. So contains will ask for, yeah, the object. For find, we also ask for the object. So I should be calling these object instead of key. I just don't want to get myself confused here. And so it should be looking through items begin to end, finding this thing based on value. So ideally it should be something like this, where, but who knows, right? I guess this is where we'll pick up tomorrow. Key is not thing, that's fine. And we'll try and finish this up. Every time I think like today is the last day we're working on this, something else pops up. So that's just kind of the joy of programming, right? Every time you think you're gonna be done with something for the day, something else just gets in the way. So this always happens. And I am definitely a victim of it. But yeah, I'm gonna call it here, as it's about that time. I hope you all enjoyed the stream today. There's always a lot of fun times to be had with programming. And we'll see you all next time. Still got a couple of things to figure out. Apparently, contains is not a member of standard ranges. I probably just didn't include the right file. Yeah, I don't see an include ranges there, so that would do it. So that's gonna be next time. But yeah, thank you all for watching. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you have a great day or night wherever you might be. Thanks for tuning in, Tiger, and anybody else. Have a good one. Bye.